Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're happy to have the great folks from Minot State join us to talk about post-secondary education and some opportunities for our transition age youth. And we have a couple of families that have gone through that process that are also joining us to let us know about their experiences. So without further ado, I don't know which one of you are going to speak first, but take it away.
You're on mute, Ann.
Gosh, I'm on mute every time that I try to start speaking. I'm Ann Bestie Goldberg, and I'm the director of the Impact Consortium for the state of North Dakota. And what we do in the Impact Consortium is to develop post-secondary opportunities for students with intellectual disabilities. And so we're going to talk with you a little bit today. First, I'm going to start out talking to you a little bit about some of the programs in the state. And then Tracy and Jolynn are going to speak just a little, and then we're going to hand it over to the parents who have kindly joined us tonight. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and I think I should be able to do this. Can you see? Yes, you can see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to see if I can make it be. Yay. All right. You can see the full screen now, right? Yes? Okay, perfect. So my colleagues here along with me are Tracy Olson. If you can give a wave, Tracy. Tracy is the director of the A-STEP program that most people are familiar with in North Dakota. That's a program that is at Minot State, and it's the original program in the state of North Dakota. And also another team member, another impact team member is Jolynn Webster. Many of you know Jolynn. She has a long history of working at NDCPD and doing a lot of good things for people with disabilities. So, and we are from the North Dakota Center for Persons with Disabilities at Minot State. So in North Dakota, we have 3 programs now. So our newest program that we're happy to announce is the Transition and Access Program, or TAP, at North Dakota State University. And so that program will be taking applications very soon. Mark Coppin, if you know who he is the director of the TAP program at NDSU. And soon they will have their application packets ready, and he will be letting people know. And we hope to have a class starting in August for the next academic year. And I'm sure we will have a class there. I think there are several people that have expressed interest in the program. So we're really excited about that. Our other 2 programs are the A-STEP program, advancing students towards education and employment at Minot State University. And that's a program that is a combined program. So students live on the Minot State campus and can take some Minot State classes, but they also can take some Dakota College of Botano classes. So it's a very interesting program in that there's 2 universities that cooperate. It's been long-standing. I think it's in its 12th or 13th year. So very good program. And then our 3rd program is Action and Support to Promote Inclusive Readiness Experiences, the Aspire program at Dakota College of Botano. And that is a new program. It's been in existence for a couple of years now, and it's very small. We would like to grow it some. We feel like this is a campus that a lot of students who came from very rural towns might feel comfortable at, because it's a small, very close-knit campus. We have 1 student in the program there at this time, and Jolynn and a few people are going to go on a recruiting trip up in northern North Dakota starting on Monday, and we're hoping to grow that program some more. We did have a program in Bismarck called the REACH at BSC program. And unfortunately, that program is going to have to close at the end of this academic year. So May 12th would be the last day that that program is in operation. We feel very bad about that. The program has been a good one, and it was really building enrollment. It was circumstances beyond anyone's control why the program had to close. And so we're still working to try to have a program in or around Bismarck, because we realize that there needs to be a program in the Bismarck area if we can make it happen. Okay. So today we're going to be talking to you about how to prepare your students to be college ready once they graduate from their high school. And it always starts, and I'm sure everyone knows this, but it always starts with high expectations. And we know that, we know a lot more about intellectual disabilities now than we did just even a few years ago, really. And one thing that is proven in the research, and we all knew it from the beginning, is when you have high expectations for people, anybody, they can rise to those expectations. So from the very beginning, having high expectations, high but realistic expectations, is very important. And parents need to know that there are college opportunities for their children and believe that college is possible for their sons and daughters, for them to be successful in college. And so, do you want me to continue on with this, Jolynn? Is this my slide? Okay. And so start early, starting when they're young, very young, before they're even in school, is a time to start preparing, getting them experiences, helping them to be comfortable around people, allowing them to have a voice and a choice from the very beginning, supporting your child to take chances, and that it's okay to make mistakes, because when we make mistakes or when we don't succeed like we want to, that's not a failure, it's a learning opportunity. Of course, we're speaking to the choir here, but advocating for inclusion every day in everything. The more students are included with one another, the more everyone grows. And when students with intellectual disabilities are included, they have to make sure that we have adequate support so that they're not set up to fail. And so, advocating for that from preschool services all the way on up. And I know sometimes it's difficult in preschool and even in school sometimes to get some of the supports that are necessary. But just being in there and advocating and teaching your child to advocate for themselves is very important. Make employment an expectation. So having your child have some work experiences from as young of an age as possible, I think is something that is helpful. Enlisting natural support, so not having an add-on support, but if your child is helping with the Bison football team or something, have football players be those natural supports, or the coaches around be those natural supports. We have that a lot at A-Step at Minot State. And then sharing your success stories. And we're so excited today to have parents who can share some really exciting success stories.
So when we work with our students and support them at A-Step in our college program, we really focus on the areas that are listed on this slide. And so these are important adult life domains. Each of these areas is really important for young adults with disabilities to be able to be as successful and live as independently as possible with supports. And so we really do focus on these while they are in college, but there are also some things that families can do before their young adult even transitions into post-secondary, whatever they're going to be doing next. And you can go to the next one. So I'll just kind of briefly touch on each of these areas and some things that can happen early on. And so it's really important for young adults and even younger, for individuals to understand their disability condition and really be able to identify their strengths. And so in A-STEP, we use a very person-centered planning process, and it's very strength-based. And so we really take their interests, their preferences, their strengths, and use those to identify the types of classes in which they might want to enroll and the types of jobs they might want to have. So any practice that they can have doing these kinds of things as part of self-determination early on is really important and really does prepare them to be ready for post-secondary education, giving them opportunities starting very early to make choices and be involved in decisions that affect them so that they have a say in their own lives. And then just to learn some of those self-advocacy skills where they have a voice and some choice in their lives. So starting very early with some of those really important self-determination skills is a really good thing to help prepare them for whatever comes after high school. You can go on to the next slide, please. For academics, so our students in A-STEP and in the other college programs around the state take classes related to their interests and their career goals and some electives. And so they can take for audit or they can take for credit when they're in our college programs, but there are some things that help to prepare them to be college ready and college successful if that's what they'd like to do after they graduate high school. So if there are college preparation classes that they could be enrolled in, that helps a lot. Some of those classes that will help them to prepare to take some of their college classes. Learning some basic study skills, so taking notes if that's appropriate, listening to a lecture, being able to highlight important information, all of those things really help them to be prepared for their college classes. Another really important part of college is using a planner or a calendar, much more probably when they're younger or in high school. So being able to write down due dates and things that they need to be doing during the week is a really good skill for them to have as they transition into college. And then just some time management skills. So going to class, being on time, what to do when they have downtime, which they'll have more during college a bit. So just being able to really manage some of the time aspects of doing all those things when there's not mom or dad or someone else there telling them what they always need to be doing. So practicing that early is a really important skill. Okay, go on to the next, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
One thing I wanted to say about academics, sometimes parents get confused when we say taking college preparation classes. Our students with ID don't need to have those higher level math classes, or all of those classes that are sometimes required for college admission. Our programs, we get to set our own admission standards, and so those don't apply. I mean, it's great if the students can take those classes. Sometimes they can't though. And so don't worry about that. You don't have to meet like the foreign language component and all of those things that are required for the North Dakota standards to be college ready.
Yeah, thanks. And then in the employment domain, we want to make sure that kids have opportunities to be doing chores at home. I don't know if you can switch the slide, please, Anne. So anytime that there are opportunities to do chores at home, sometimes schools at younger ages in elementary and middle school will have classroom jobs or school jobs that they can do. And then also if there are opportunities for students as they become transition age to have different types of work experiences. So doing some shadowing or even doing a bit of work out in the community if that's a possibility, or at the school. And just so that they have some employment experience when they're transitioning into post-secondary, that really does help a lot. And we work a lot with our network and our technical assistance group, which is called Think College. And they really do have a lot of good resources about job experiences and how they really do translate into more successful outcomes for young adults as they transition into adulthood. If they've had those early experiences, they have really good outcomes down the road. So anything that young adults and even younger can do to get a little bit of job experience before they go on to college is a great opportunity for them. And then independent living. So of course, living on a college campus requires some nice independent living skills. So anything they can be working on while they're already at home in all of these different areas really will, again, translate to good skills for living on a college campus. And so I won't read all these to you, but things that if you went to college, you did some of these things, maybe more than others. I think my son didn't do a whole lot of laundry or keeping his space too clean, but those are important skills. And so anything they can do to prepare to do those things when they, yeah, and then there's always DoorDash for Liz Romanek. So yeah, maybe they don't really need to know how to make snacks or simple meals till their last year when they're living on campus in an apartment and they're not getting the cafeteria food anymore. But all of these things are just really good. Anytime that there's opportunities to practice public transportation, if that is available in your community, because we really do try to get kids during their last year in the program, going to their jobs if they're working in the community, using public transportation, so they have those skills, and then just basic health and safety skills. So starting to learn how to make their own appointments for doctors or dentists or whatever, getting refills for medication, and then just some basic safety skills, because the programs are not completely supervised 24/7. So just knowing how to be safe and what to do if they're coming into a situation that maybe they're not feeling safe, which doesn't really happen too often, but just some very basic safety skills, locking their door, knowing how to use their cell phone, answering their cell phone, all those kinds of things are important to help prepare them to live more independently when they are away from home and living on the college campus.
Jolene, I have a question. If there's families that are considering and their students considering these programs, do you have like a materials ready for, so that if they need to brush up on their independent living skills, that gives them tips and whatnot to help their student get ready?
We do, and we'll make sure in some of the resources we send you to send out later that we include some of those things. But yes, we have tremendous amount of resources through college, and we can make sure we have that. I know I've seen checklists, transition checklists for independent living. So we definitely have some areas where we can provide resources and some of those independent living skills.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was just going to clarify a couple things. For one, students, if their parents live close by to programs, they don't necessarily have to live on campus. Some programs in the United States don't have that option, even for students to live on campus. We're fortunate in North Dakota that all 3 of our programs do have that option right now. But, you know, we wouldn't want a student to be living in their own apartment, responsible for themselves all the time. But, you know, if they had someone to live with, like their mom and dad or an aunt or grandma and grandpa, that's possible too. And I know when we spoke at Pathfinders one time and we had this list, you know, one parent raised their hand and said, there's no possible way that my child is going to be competent in all of these things before he gets to college. And that's not the point. They don't need to be competent in all of that. And we would talk with you as you started to apply at different colleges about the things that you would want to work on prior to your child getting on campus. But don't be intimidated by all of this list either. You know, just know that these are things to work on. But if a child can't do laundry, that's not a reason why they would not be accepted into a program. So
that's great. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And then the other area that if they have opportunities while they're still in school to practice some of these things, if there are extracurricular activities or clubs that they could participate in, going to different opportunities through the school or in the community for music, theater, sporting events, participating in any type of wellness and fitness activities, and then just kind of knowing about options for things that they could do during downtime or free time, so that they have some of these skills. And again, as Anne said, these are all mandatory as far as criteria for acceptance into a program. And these are areas that we focus on, these different adult life domains, while they are in a college program through the person-centered planning process and coming up with goals in each of these areas. But anytime that they have opportunities prior to coming to college in each of these areas, it's just a bonus for their preparation and their ability to kind of just continue and the momentum and keep going once they get into college. And so one of the ways that Think College, and we have also really found that works well to help students prepare for college, is to really use their IEP goals as a tool to help them. And so one of the handouts that Janine will send you are some examples of possible objectives in each of these different areas that I just quickly highlighted. And so anytime that goals and objectives for college can be included as part of readiness to transition into post-secondary, I think it really helps with making sure that people are committed to supporting that, and there's some accountability and some ownership. And so if you are going to be having a transition meeting for your son or daughter as they start thinking about post-secondary options, no matter what they might be choosing, anytime that you can use their IEP as a tool for their transition to prepare them for whatever they're going into next is a really powerful strategy to help them to be ready for what comes next. And so the objectives that Janine will share with you as a handout are just some really good samples of possible things that could be targeted in each of those adult life areas. And they're important no matter what they end up doing.
I was
You're muted. Yeah, you're muted.
It's messed up on my computer. I was going to say here too that I think you do have a handout with all of the IEP objectives in a big packet that Tracy sent to Janine today. So I'm sure she'll be sending that out to you. You know, I would insist on, if one of your objectives is to explore college, then I would insist on some of these things being in an IEP early. I don't know in North Dakota when they start transition services, but in Montana, I know that they can start them, or they do start them, you know, in junior high. And so, you know, as soon as these can be in IEPs, the better, in my opinion.
So now Tracy's going to share some strategies just for helping kids get prepared in the area of technology, because we in A-STEP find that this is just a really important area for our young adults.
Yeah, in A-STEP, you know, we check in during our interview process with families and students, but then really like to see how our students are doing with technology, because that really becomes part of their college experience. So it doesn't have to be proficient at all in technology, or that they have to be quite ready, but just some usage is helpful to students. We have had some students start with limited abilities, and that's okay. But texting, calling on their phones is a good skill. We use an electronic calendar so that we can have communication with the student and the team, and the parents can be in the know with a Google Calendar. So we tend to use that kind of a system instead of a paper planner, although some of our students do need that paper as well. So we do try to adapt whatever the student needs are. Laptops are helpful. I know on the Minot campus, we have some students that don't have a laptop, but we have laptops available at the university to use. And that's always helpful. And a part of that is just knowing how to email and communicate back and forth with professors. That's something our staff will help our students do if they need to communicate with a professor, is to kind of learn how to do some of that emailing back and forth. A lot of our students have apps on their computers that are downloaded to help with them to learn as they're learning their classwork that our mentors are working on with them as well. But some of the learning apps gives them some autonomy when mentors aren't available. So for example, a read-write program where books can be read audibly on the computer, or a speech to text kind of system is also helpful. So there is a wide world out there of technology, as some of you may already know. And so all of that is helpful. Some of it's helpful. And just know that as students come to programs such as these, they'll be growing in this area as well. So just something to think about. I think COVID kind of helped promote some of that with learning at home for all students. So, but it's not a deal breaker for sure, but just kind of a helpful hint.
And all of the university system schools in North Dakota have several apps that are free to students to use. And Read and Write Gold is one of those, and that has text to speech and different things on it. So it's not something that you would have to purchase for your child if they were going to go to one of our programs.
Next slide, Ann. And then just as you're thinking about college, and I know parents are always wondering about possible funding sources. For students in our program, we have sort of two tracks that students can be on. They can be on an audit track where they're earning a program certificate. And so they are auditing classes instead of taking classes for college credit. And so what that means is students that have additional needs of learning and need more modifications in order to help in their learning, such as reduced assignments or different ways of testing, like reducing your testing amounts. All of those modifications, if you have a student that needs that, they tend to be more of our audit students. And then we also have some students that academically they can take college classes for credit and earn an AAS or a certificate in, for example, a technology degree on at the DCB campus programming. Also, we have some paraprofessional degrees and other technical study type degrees that they can earn. And those students are expected to learn and complete their work as other typical college students do. They can get some accommodations like longer test time or a quieter testing space, note takers, things like that. And we're able to connect them to the campus resources for those supports. And so depending on which track your student on really sometimes depends on the possible funding sources that are available. So for federal financial aid, we do not at Minot State do not have the availability for our audit students to qualify for that. And so that's something that we're working on, but haven't got there quite yet. And then Voc Rehab sometimes has supported our students. We let parents and students work that out with Voc Rehab if there is some possible funding there. That's mainly tuition and books. There's scholarships. There's a list of scholarships for students with disabilities that I try and send out to folks. Some of our students have ABLE accounts. Veterans benefits might be one of them. Job Service of North Dakota will support credit students, is what we've been told. But if you have an audit student and you want to work with your job service folks, you know, it would be worth at least reaching out to check on that. ASTEP has like a program fee because we are no longer under any federal grant, and for our own sustainability, we have a program fee attached to our program, which is above and beyond tuition and books and room and board. And that is to help pay for those mentor supports and staff extra enhanced advising that our students get that the university doesn't provide. And so we've been fortunate. The legislature has passed the Senate Bill 2269 bill. So if there's a North Dakota student that's graduated and not still enrolled in their high school and is between the ages of 18 through 21, A-STEP is able to apply students with that criteria to see if they would be eligible for some program fee monies that DPI would help pay for, which is some of the federal funds that I believe comes to the high school for students that once they graduate goes back. And so we're able to capture some of those dollars for some of our students, not all of our students. And we really encourage families to really be talking to their IEP teams to determine whether students need that IEP but to stay on their IEP to come to us, or if they should be a graduate of their high school before they come to us. We work with students on both. So this school year has been the first school year that we've been able to accept those DPI funds. And so we really find that that's going to be helpful to families. One thing to note on that is each program has to become an approved program in order to get those funds. So our newer programs are just working on getting established. They would have to be in touch and go through that approval process with DPI. And so we can work with those new programs as they move forward. But they may have to have some history built up before they're approved. But we'll be working with them to check that out with DPI as well.
Yep, we are in continual talks with DPI, but at this point in time, they wanted programs to exist for at least 3 years prior to becoming eligible for this type of funding. One thing I did want to mention, federal student aid, our students who audit are not eligible for that at any of our programs right now. We have to get a thing that's called CTP status, and we are working hard to try to have that in place at all 3 of our programs by the start of the next academic year. So that is our goal. We're hoping we can get there. We're thinking we can get there. If we can't get there by the first semester, maybe we can get there by the second semester. I know that we will get there with at least one of our programs this semester, this coming school year, students will be eligible for financial aid. And they're eligible for all financial aid except for student loans.
And they have to have a diagnosis of an intellectual disability. There are some more stringent definitions around that for them as well. We just need to sort of feel that out yet on what that would look like.
And we plan to develop more trainings in that regard. So be on the watch for some of those.
And you're on mute.
We plan to do some additional trainings on financing college. And so if anyone knows of any programs or schools who would like us to come and speak about that, we will be happy to do that.
So at this time, I'm really excited, and it feels like a great honor and privilege to introduce our 2 parents. And I know we started late, so Deneen, I don't know if we still need to be done by 9 or if we can go a little bit over, but these are 2 parents who have really gone through the journey of preparing their son or their daughter for college readiness and success. And I love hearing from both of them. They're really powerful. We nab them anytime we can get them in our classes or other presentations. And so I'm going to just very quickly turn it over to them. I'll never forget Roxanne in one of my classes saying that for her, transition started the day that Liz was born. And I'm always also super excited to hear Janice talking about what they have done as a whole family to really support their son so that he could go to college. So I want to welcome them and thank them both for joining us. And I don't know who would like to get started first. If Roxanne wants to go first, since her daughter graduated, and then we can hear from Janice, whose son is currently enrolled. And then the last couple of slides, which Denise will be sending out to, are just resources with links, as well as all of our contact information if any of you are interested in learning more about any of these college opportunities. So thank you, Roxanne and Janice. I'm going to turn it over first to Roxanne, and then we'll move to Janice.
Hi to everybody that's on. My daughter is 23 and she has a diagnosis of Down syndrome. And she went to the A-STEP program for 4 years and ended up with an associate's degree from Dakota College of Botano in early childhood paraprofessional. She's home now. She's living in her own apartment and she is working as an instructional aide for our school district at Bismarck. So overall, I just testified yesterday in front of Senate Appropriations and told them that she met all the expectations for their return on investment for early childhood. Yeah, like I do say that, Jolene, you know, that I feel like we, you know, you kind of have to start thinking about this almost from the beginning. And one of the things I think that's probably maybe the key to her, one of the major keys to her success is her independent streak and her willingness to ask for help and to kind of leap out in the world. And that's really been kind of how she is. I mean, she's just kind of genetically made like that. And so she had that on her side. But I do think about her from a pretty young age of really transitioning between environments in school without instructional aid. I really felt strongly about not over aiding her and allowing her to have those independent times unless we had to move in and do something differently. So by the time she got to high school, she was maneuvering all over the high school very independently, would leave with friends and go out for lunch, would leave, walk across the street to the gas station. So she was doing those things. So I think that she kind of surprised everybody the first year on campus. She called home and said, "Hey mom, I saw a sign in the elevator for cheerleading tryouts. So I just took myself over for cheerleading tryouts and now I'm on the varsity cheerleading squad at my And I remember Amy saying, I didn't even know. It was like, we didn't even know she went there. She even went there. So I do think, I mean, being really intentional about thinking about the amount of adult support that your young adult or youth has and trying to back off from that, places where they can be successful and really trying that. So I think being able to think and have the youth or young adult take the lead on scheduling, right? Like, I mean, to go to room 204 next. So, you know, like trying to take their lead, not having somebody hold their hand and go there. So I do think that's really important. And then that element of asking for help, and now it's depending on somebody else to do that. And so even if they're not using verbal language, attempting to try to let individuals take the lead. And like I said, Liz was always really great at asking for help. And I think that served her well on campus. There's just so many things that you guys covered them all, but I would say pull your IEP team, get your IEP team looking in the direction of college as early as 16, because that time really flies fast. And I would make sure that you invite Voc Rehab to that meeting early on, get a Voc Rehab eligibility done, and help them to understand that you're serious about considering post-secondary environments for your student. And you know, sometimes you have to say, we're going to wait till you get to the meeting because I want you to be at the meeting. And if you use developmental disabilities, have them at the table. And I think then that way too, you can also have conversations about funding streams. So I felt like we were in the last moment on that. I felt like we were down to the wire, like in February or March of her senior year, just trying to figure out how this was all going to work. And I mean, I guess I was kind of surprised that we were there even, but you have to understand that's like 6 years ago now. So, I mean, the concept of going to college was still fairly new to the world, not just to our family. But I also think like handling money, having access to a debit card, even if they're doing that with support, is super important. And everybody mentioned work experiences, even if it's job shadowing or mock interviews or volunteering. All those work experiences are really important. And really involving your individual in their medical care. So Liz at that point she knew what her medical diagnoses were. She knew how to schedule an appointment. She knew how to check in for an appointment. She had her insurance card in her wallet. And there were a couple of times that she took herself to student health, which was awesome because it was right there in Lura, where she was leaving. And she, she had to go down and talk to them and ask them about something that was going on. The other thing we did in her senior year is remember in your IEP that you have these transition T1, T2, and T3 goals. And T3 is really the activities. So one of the things we had built in there is that she would meet weekly with the school nurse to talk about personal safety, understanding sexuality and growth and development, understanding how all that worked, and really, kind of understanding the concepts around personal safety. And I think that was super helpful. And then of course she got to bump into the SAFE program at NDCPD and living in the adult world. And all of that has really, really helped her to live very responsibly, I think, in the community at this point, and really understand and kind of, watch out for things. And I can see it kicking in very, very often. And definitely technology. And it's funny about email because sometimes our kids don't use email, but I think orienting kids to email, but using their phones and their schedules in their phones, super important. Still a big part of her life. She likes her alerts, Jolyn. So I'm gonna let Janice take it from here.
Well, you don't need to. I think that was amazing. So my first comment is going to be that you don't have to be as amazing as Roxanne in order to get your kid to go to college, because here I am. So, and I have met Liz. She's a rock star. It's amazing. So a couple of things from our experience that were really helpful, but were kind of unknown to us at the time. If I had known about it going in, I maybe would have done a little bit more. But something that came about that was really helpful was that Charlie had been away from us. You can't go to college and have that be the first time that your child is sleeping on their own away from family if they're going to live in the dorm. And he had at a young age been able to spend the night at grandparents' homes. And at that time, that was really a challenge. And it didn't happen very often because it was really hard. And as he got older, he was able to attend a sleepaway camp. It took a lot of effort to make that happen, but it was worth it. And when we interviewed for the A-STEP program, that was something that really stood out. He had been able to be away from us before, and I hadn't thought of that coming in to the interview with Charlie. but that was really helpful. And the fact that he could use his phone and a schedule. We have a calendar in the kitchen, and I make sure to put really good things on the calendar when he was younger and could read, things that he would look forward to. And that skill helped build being able to look at a calendar on his phone. And as everyone who knows Charlie knows, if it's on the calendar, that is like in stone. It's he lives by it, and he is very comforted by it, and just loves it. The other day he told me right away, I have to move. I'm working at the movie theater. And I knew no one had talked to him about this, but he saw it on his phone and he was really excited about that. He knows when he's coming home for a weekend. All of these things are really important. But it all started by putting things on the calendar that he was really looking forward to. Something that was really helpful in high school was working at a concession stand. And that is something that I wish in hindsight we would have taken more advantage of, because there's always a concession stand. And we used that as a job experience quite a bit, but I think we could have used that a lot more. And then he could have done that as a college kid too. I have thought of that often in my wonderful hindsight vision. I can't think of anything to tell parents that would be a deal breaker if they told me, my child can't fill in the blank. I want to encourage parents to tour a campus, meet the staff, meet the people who are involved in these programs, because it's amazing. I learned so much so quickly, and you're around so many really educated people with disabilities, and it changed the way I viewed my own child, which, I mean, overnight, I learned so much. And whenever I say that, the staff is like, what? We didn't even do anything. What did we say? But I found it to be profound to be around people who are dedicating their lives to students with disabilities. And I learned a lot. We have learned more about our child when he has been away from us. And he has had a lot of significant growth in areas that we weren't really looking for growth. This is something we cannot create at home. We can find jobs for Charlie. We can help him make friends. We can do a lot for Charlie, but we cannot create a college campus and of this style and give him the opportunity to live there and build his independence and self-pride. Yeah, it's been fantastic. The advice of using your IEP for college prep, I did not do that. It came up when Charlie was in our adult transition program after high school. He was in that for a year because of COVID. And it is not common for students who have an IEP team to be sitting around talking about how are we going to get this kid to college. At least in my experience, that wasn't what was usually talked about. And I wish that we had made more of a focus of that, because as soon as that conversation started, the whole team was just elated. Everybody wants to send a kid to college, and they were really excited to be a part of that. I just wish I had, thought of it sooner. I find that a lot of people don't know about college opportunities like this, and we learned about it from another parent. So I'm applauding Family Voices for hosting this call and for all the people that are a part of this call, because it's hard to know about everything that's out there. So yeah, I could go on and on, so I won't. I'm not sure what else to say, but I could talk forever about this.
No, I think you did a great job. And I will just say too, when you said that, Janice, about how much your son has grown, and I have seen that because I'm in the office up there. My offices are in that same place. And, I said this to someone recently. I have been in special ed my whole life, and I've worked for over 40 years. And I have seen growth in students at the K-12 level, a lot of growth. but I've never seen anything like what happens to people when they go to college. And I think it's just being around their peers all the time and having that peer support that really does change people. And I'll tell you a story about Charlie when we're off. Something that happened with me with him, and I was like so excited I had to come back and tell Jolynn and Tracy all about it. So
Good. I can't wait to hear that.
So I don't know if
I'd
there are
like to
any
know if there's
questions.
any questions.
Yeah, questions for the parents especially.
Well, you guys, I feel bad. I know what it's like to talk to a dead screen, and you need to know that we're hanging on every word. Janice, Roxanne, we know the story and have admired it and watched it and intently for years. Janice, we appreciate your comments. We're in that boat of trying to think through this, what it looks like. And so just know that you are doing really cool things. We really appreciate you, and we're sitting here listening intently. So you're not talking to an empty audience. I just want you to know that we have so much to learn, and we're trying to do that. And I mean, our big challenge is so many things you covered tonight, just trying to understand how to take this potential experience, which we're so excited about, make sure it's a fit for the skill sets that Mercedes has. And that's where we're struggling to make that connect. We want to make sure it's a good experience for her. We're doing all those things that, I shouldn't say all, we're trying to do all those things at home in terms of independence. And Janice, your comments about we've tried all that, and we absolutely know. We have the Camp Grassic experience, and in our 18 years of this experience, nothing has been as valuable as Camp Grassic and the independence and the learning that comes from mentors and people that care. And so we're hoping we can extend that into these years. This seems like the way to do it, but we're just worried about the distance to the school because it's 100 miles for us. We're here in Bismarck. And we really want to ensure that we're putting Mercedes in a position of success. And we don't know, we know, what we've learned about disabilities is that there's commonalities, and then each one is so individual. And so we're just trying to figure out how to connect the dots on Mercedes' knowledge, skills, and abilities to the program. And is it a fit for her? And is it a fit for the program? And so I'll put a period on it there. That's where we really get hung up. Because we know your children have very different skill sets than Mercedes.
So if I could just say something, our students at our programs have really varied levels. So there are students that are really high level and come to us really high level. And then there are students who, don't have as many skills, and, they are successful too, because the key to our programs are that we talk with parents, we try to find a real fit, and then we have the necessary supports in place for students until they don't need them again. We try to fade them as quickly as we can, but we do have those supports ready for students. And so I would just suggest to you that if you're looking at A-STEP, you should contact Tracy and go up and have a visit and see what it's all about, and bring Mercedes.
We appreciate that advice. We did take that step here in Bismarck at BSC. We're bummed to hear that didn't work out, but in that case, the staff there, really nice people, had a hard time connecting those dots. They kept saying, "Oh, you need to talk to the people in Minot because they're so much better at this." And so we are very encouraged by what we hear, and we will absolutely take you up on that.
And you can take Liz with you, and she'll just show Mark.
Yeah. She'll tour you.
All
She'll
over
be your
that.
guide.
I like
I
it.
don't want to leave.
Right, there's that problem.
Roxanne and Janice, I would ask you to kind of speak a little bit too, because that's a question we hear often in Minot from parents is there's a distance and we're worried about the distance. Can you ladies speak a little bit about how you managed and are managing some of those concerns and emotions and feelings about that?
I can speak to that if you're okay with me going first, Roxanne.
Oh, for sure.
We live 3 hours away, and I hate that. It's far. It is really inconvenient. I wish that the program was so many other places. But the plus side of this is that it has brought a couple of family, a couple of relatives out of the woodwork. If we really need someone, they are there to help. Charlie was in desperate need of bubbler and potato chips. And so I called a niece that lives in Minot, and she made a grocery run for him. This was early on before we had any connections. And I knew that that was really going to change his life if I could just get a potato chip into that dorm. It also did force us to be prepared. And that was a good thing. I think if it was closer to us, I would be there all the time. Maybe wouldn't have gone so well for us because of that. We're not sure. It is far. That has been a challenge for us. But the good thing about that is that it has forced us to use technology. It has forced us, like we have Charlie's calendar on our phones. We also use Find My Friends so that we see where he's at. And then we make sure we call him when we know he's not in the middle of a class. We send him a lot of reminders, including things like make sure you brush your teeth, little things like that. And sometimes we'll even text his brothers. Charlie really could use a pick-me-up today. He has been struggling with the new semester right now. It's just for some reason taking him a while to get into the groove. I think the classes are a little harder. His jobs aren't really in place yet. It's just, he's just getting into it. But we can tell that he's getting over that hump, and things are starting to get better for him. But the distance, we have to remind ourselves sometimes that it has forced us to get better at some other things that maybe we wouldn't have if we had been right down the street. So I don't know if that is, and Charlie, I would not have dreamed of this as an option for him with his abilities, especially with communication. He really struggles with that, runs into people sometime, it was hard for me to imagine, but we had talked to another parent. I'm sure everyone from A-Step or maybe from Bismarck knows Jay Raisin. He had told us about the program and his son John had been in it. And he said, not to compare kids, but looking at what my son has done and looking what I know of your son, you should at least tour the campus and learn about it and see how your son responds. And, Charlie can't sit through a meeting. So when we went to the campus and interviewed, he needed a break after 30 seconds. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is never going to go well. And he had to leave the room. And so if it wasn't for that parent, for Jay, I would never have even gone to the campus because it just seemed so out of reach. It really did seem out of reach. So the distance, terrible, but it has brought out some untapped skills from before too.
Yeah, well, I cheated. My niece lives there too, so that was really helpful. My kid was like out the car and in her dorm room with the door shut before like I even got out of the car. So she didn't have any trouble separating, which actually, is helpful versus I don't think she had a day of homesickness. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. And then I discovered, because we had Life 360 on our phones, and I discovered she had, disconnected from that. She didn't want me to know where she was, but then I did discover that I could follow her Bitmoji on Snapchat. I don't even know if that's the right emoji to call it, but so she didn't know that I could see where she was, but that was very reassuring. So, an app like Life 360 or your Find My iPhone or whatever you're going to use is really helpful. The other part of this is the opportunity to make decisions. So her roommate situation didn't turn out very well the freshman year, and I was nervous about the roommate situation. As she called me and she said, "Mom," she said, and I knew that her roommate had said she was moving out, and I was like kind of devastated about that. And she said, Mom, it's the best day of my life. Best day of my life. I was like, Liz, your roommate's moving out on you. How can it be the best day of your life? She said, yeah, no, I found a new one and she's moving in this afternoon. I was like, oh my God. And they lived together for the next, 2 years. So, and nobody really helped with that either. I mean, they just, right, Jolene, I think they just kind of found each other.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to, live independently, if you can imagine having an adult with you all the time, or, and never really getting to initiate trying to figure out your own life, it's such a wonderful way to do it. Because there's so many built-in protections, I feel like, with the program. Really, everybody should have this. Every college student should have case management and mentors.
You guys, again, just really appreciate you sharing those things, because you're addressing so many of our fears and concerns. And so super helpful. Thank you. The stories are great, you guys, because every story you two have told, we can relate to every one of them.
There's also no, Charlie cannot really hide his disability, or disabilities, I should say. And the A-STEP program is, I feel, really well known on campus, and other students are very welcoming. And that has stood out to me as well, that there is a lot of support. There's a lot of knowledge about the program, like the RAs in the dorm immediately knew Charlie and are very helpful. People are just educated and inclusive. I noticed that right away about the campus.
Yeah, I called to pay Liz's dining contract. And I think I introduced myself when I did that. But then all of a sudden it kind of clicked in for the fellow I was talking to, Leon, right? And he goes, oh, you're Elizabeth Romanik's mom. Oh my God. And then he did this whole she's just we're just gonna miss her on campus, and she just changes the life of the campus. And it was okay, the guy at the dining service, I don't know what he said, student services or something, I think. And then he came to the A-STEP celebration. The A-STEP celebration for Liz and her fellow graduate last spring, it just proved the point with Janice, with what Janice just said about how A-STEP has found a place on that campus and people know about it. So everybody, President Shirley was there. The alumni office was there, the housing office. It was just unbelievable. I was just overwhelmed. I get really overwhelmed when I think about it. How amazing it was.
And I would just like to say that in our programs that we are building, I feel like it's going to be that exact same way at NDSU, because they've built it that way, so that there's a lot of people across campus that are already involved with the building of the program. And we have terrific staff at Dakota College of Botano too. The two ladies that mainly run the program there are so awesome, and their whole campus, because it's small, is involved all the time. And so students are just part of everything, and accepted, and so, yeah.
Well,
so we have parents.
Yeah,
What's
lucky
that?
to have Mark Copen
Yes.
involved.
Yeah, we're lucky that Mark Copen is going to be the director. And also we tried, when we built the programs, to have people that knew people with disabilities in some way or another. And so I really feel that that's the key. And I think our programs that are in existence now are that way. And Tracy is on the phone all the time with our directors, and they ask questions if they don't know. And so, you know, I feel like we're really in a good space, and our new programs are newer, but you know, I feel like they're in really good hands. So
how do we find out more then going forward about the Fargo program at NDSU?
So if you are wanting information right now, I think you could call Mark Coppin. So he is in disability services at the university. So if you just look that up, you know, on the NDSU campus, he's the head of accessibility services, or whatever they call it.
Do you know him?
Yes, yeah, back in our original Down syndrome group, I coordinated him to come in and speak about the different apps early on in Jake's life. So back when we used to have our conferences, but I mean, he's a great guy, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Kristen, I have his email. I can send that to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes,
Mhm.
and he will answer any questions you have. And you know, if you get your son on, you know, on his radar, then, you know, you can continue to work with him to make sure that he's ready when it's time.
And is it, I mean, just to kind of, I know it's towards the end here, but like when you talk about classes, or is there different classes that they're taking?
So,
Or
yeah, so it will be set up in the same way. So there'll be a core group of classes that, you know, all students will take, but they will be inclusive. But they will be those classes like learning how to function on a college campus and certain things like that. We have classes on wellness and, you know, the law curriculum, which is about safety and, you know, sexual safety and all of those things. And so those kind of classes will be the same for everyone, but there'll be then groupings of classes that students can take. And we're going to start out that way at NDSU because it's a different kind of campus than Botno, you know, or where students take classes from Botno. And so we'll start out like that, but, you know, it will be geared towards what people are interested in. And at first, I think at NDSU, they're going to try in their first year they're going to not have students take classes for credit. And then, but one of their goals is within the next couple of years to get that option available to students too.
and then like cost wise, is it similar to like going to college, like the same tuition typically?
Right. So, so if your student audits, then it's less money because they don't charge full tuition, but students pay the regular tuition just like everyone else. And right now there aren't fees at either of the other two programs, but they will be looking to institute some fees, you know, so for sustainability. And so they'll be starting to do that. I don't know if they'll be quite as much as A-Step is right now, but they will be. And we are looking to really advocate in the next legislative system or legislative session for the legislature to play an even bigger role, because we are learning from other states and they're helping us to see how we might help our legislators see the need for this. So there'll be a lot of options. I think as time goes on, there's going to be more and more options to help parents and students pay for the education, because we realize it's expensive.
But
I think it's worth every.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I
But
just,
that's also kind of like just talking with your DD caseworker and the MA waiver also.
yes, you know, I think, and different places will pay in terms of like VR, different regions pay differently. So I think it's important to start talking to them as soon as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also we have good statistics from the Think College network. They keep research on all of the programs. And so we know the outcomes for students that go to these programs. the outcomes for them once they graduate compared to outcomes for students who don't go to these programs. And the difference is very real. And so that's, you know, something that puts strength in asking for funding as well.
And it is getting easier. When Charlie first enrolled, I don't think their voc rehab person had ever had a student go to college with disabilities like Charlie. And so it's really helpful that he sees that growth in Charlie.
Right.
And he had told me, you know, now that I've done this, it's so much easier to do it for other people. You know, it all makes sense. So the chances that you're going to be somebody's first family is pretty high, I think.
Mhm.
But,
And-
you know, you can do it.
So we were at the voc rehab conference and spoke this year, and it was a great session. And Tracy and I spoke. And that counselor, he wasn't using any personal information or anything, but he just talked about how great these things were. And so the whole audience, you know, and this was a statewide conference, but the whole audience was super excited. So that was really fun. So I think, you know, we are making, now that we're getting more and more known, we're making more and more of an impact, and I think people are recognizing it. And so
And
then
people want
really-
to be a part of that success story. So
Yeah.
I think that's in all of our kids' favor. One thing that voc rehab was helpful with for Charlie was an Apple Watch. And I wondered if in hindsight, if they maybe would have been supportive of a phone because of what you're using it for. So that might be something to keep in mind is technology. I was really surprised by that. So, and then they were also helpful in helping to pay for the books that Charlie needed. And maybe Tracy might know this, some of the program fee or the program fee. So yeah, voc rehab, which, you know, I never really knew anything about voc rehab until like yesterday, but you know, so like I said, you don't have to be this rock star parent like Roxanne and know everything. You can learn as you go, so don't let that stop you.
I just have her on speed dial, so
Well, there you go. And so, you know, Roxanne's daughter, Liz, when Charlie started on campus, I mean, we were both just deer in the headlights, so scared. I just couldn't imagine. And Liz walked up to Charlie and said, what are your classes? And Charlie just looked like panic, and he turned to me and turned back to Liz, and he goes, I don't know. And so then I answered for Liz or for Charlie and told Liz one of the classes, and she turns to me. So, I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but she turned to me and she goes, I really got a lot of good takeaways from that class. I thought, well, Charlie, I think you're going to learn something at least. I'll never forget that. Yeah.
That's really great.
Funny.
Voc rehab traditionally right now helps cover, like Janice said, technology, sometimes tuition and books, mainly those things. When there's employment in there, sometimes they can help with some transportation costs, sometimes. And then what else was it? And then I was going to also add about DD providers. If you're working with like a DD case manager, what we have found helpful is some of our students do need some help in dorms. You know, they're far from home and they need some support. And so working with your DD case manager to determine, you know, is there a DD provider in Minot that you would want to hook up with your son or daughter? Because we do have Easter Seals and Calix and Carlson and community options. And depending on where a parent picks, sometimes those options are support in the dorms when we don't provide those supports. So they kind of, with that Medicaid waiver, it's not necessarily like a financial dollar amount, but it is services that can help our students a little bit with their morning routines or medication routines and shopping and things like that. So that's always helpful as well when some of our students are able to qualify for that.
I did find that those services were easier to access when Charlie got to campus because everybody was very familiar. They had already worked with students who were in A-STEP. So something that I had really struggled with for years, obtaining in the town where we live in, I felt like it was really faster when we got to the campus because everybody had already worked together and could kind of funnel us into the right person. And there wasn't this, you know, okay, who are you and what are you looking for? It was, I felt like that was a paved road.
That's good.
So I'm curious, Janice. So from a Roxanne and Liz perspective, this is a fun story. A girl I went to high school with, worked with her in BSEP, Roxanne, when she was young, and the fact that she's coming back into the program is the biggest success story that they could talk about. And so I actually heard about it from a friend, which was super cool. But Janice, from your perspective, I'm curious from a how long has Charlie been in the program now?
This is his second year.
Second year. So what's your vision of what the next steps after this look like?
We are learning a lot about him and what he really likes. And something that has come about is that he is a strong man. He needs heavy work. We think things like freight, unloading, loading, he likes it best. He responds best when he has heavy work. I actually think a perfect job for him would be the garbage truck, riding on the back, heavy lifting, things like that. So what we want to do is find work for him that is maybe close. We have a dental office. I'm a dental hygienist. My husband's a dentist. So we do have some work for him in our office. And what we'd like to find is another job at close proximity to our office that he can walk to. But once he got onto campus, that's when we started to think he might not want to live with us. He likes living in the dorm. He likes his own space. So I don't know. We are still learning. And one thing about Minot, it's a much bigger town than where we live. So there are a lot more work opportunities, different work opportunities than what we can come up with. So we keep learning, but our vision changes. But we think a job like dishwashing in a restaurant that's close to us, transportation is hard. He doesn't have a driver's license. Right. That is something that we are working on, and they're working on it in A-STEP too with a mentor. They have spent time working on practice tests for a driver's permit. We think that he would have the ability to drive in our small town in, little distances, and a specific car, maybe like a side-by-side with a license on it, things like that. We think he will live close to us, or maybe a brother. He has 3 brothers. So like I said, our vision has changed drastically since he first started in this college program, because we've learned a lot about him. And I think it's good that he got away from, especially me, a little bit, because it helped me see him in a little different light and see him around other people.
So if you appreciate you sharing, if you said this earlier and I don't remember, I apologize. Again, we have the Camp Crassic experience, which is 3 weeks of summer, and it's been amazing. And through that experience, we can relate to you, say we've learned a ton and very encouraging things. So what like one of the things that we had thought early on through the diagnosis and all that is that we would be together. Mercedes just joined us forever. And then, if we're going to be realistic, we won't be here as long as Mercedes. So we want to make sure we're setting her up for success when that day comes. And I have a really good friend that said, are you sure she wants to? I know you. I don't think she wants to live with you. Anyway, he talked about, he's in the industry, and he talked about the importance of independence and really being healthy for them and the parent. And so our goal all along has been getting her into a living situation that she's thrilled with. And the Camp Grassic thing has given us that experience and that perception. And so now we're just trying to think what that looks like post high school, post hopefully this program. And so that's just fun to hear your experiences and what you're learning.
And if you get there and it's terrible, so
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talk about this often. I'd rather try and fail than not try and never know.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Again, super valuable, you guys. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was
Great
interesting.
questions.
Yeah, when we got ready to go to, start thinking about school being done, and Liz had a horrible time leaving her peeps at Minot State. She did say at one point, I think I have to come home because I'm gonna need more help. And it was like, wow, because she was heading to New York, like who knows where she was gonna end up. But it was just like some really interesting insights about, herself. And it's so funny about, I think that's really one of her strengths right now too, is like she said, I'm so bad at cleaning out my fridge. I'd have to have help, but I don't want you to help me. So she got some other people that she knows to come over and help her. But I think that understanding of what you need help with, I mean, I'm not very good at it, to be quite honest. So that was pretty cool to see that maturity in her.
I did go to Minot on last night and took Charlie out for dinner. This was the first time that he had said, I think I need to move home. And of course I wanted to drive to Minot, pack him up and move him home. You don't want your kids to be sad. And I think he was lonely. I think it has been a tough transition going back for this semester for some reason, like the reasons that I was talking about earlier. Also the feedback that I was getting from staff was his glasses were crooked and it was really causing some problems. And I thought, I hate to move him home, get him the new glasses and realize that was the problem. So let's take him the new glasses. They just hadn't gotten in time for him to get them when he was home for Christmas. So I took him his new glasses last night and I started to ask him about college, and he said, I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong decision. And I said, and cried about it. And I said, the reason that you're worried about making the wrong decision is because I think you don't want to leave here. So I think you're probably in a good place. And I can't believe I was able to have that conversation with him. It was like 4 exchanges back and forth, and that was it. That's about all he was capable of doing, but very meaningful for him at his level. And yeah, he stayed.
Oh, good.
So it's not perfect is what I'm saying. It's not perfect. There have been bumps, but it was the staff that was telling me these glasses are a problem. They weren't saying it like, when are you going to get your kids some new glasses? But they were definitely letting me know the glasses are a bigger problem than what you might think from that distance, because I'm like, just wear them crooked,
You have no idea. We literally broke a set of glasses 3 days ago. And you have no idea how relatable this story is. Wow.
And I have to say, Janice, we were on pins and needles for your meeting with him last night, and we cheered at our staff meeting that he's staying. So it was a joy for us as well. So
good.
Oh.
Do Mike or Shanda or Katie, do you have any questions at all for any of the folks from A-Step or the other families?
I think that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never Zoomed before, so it's kind of new. But no, I think it was great that all the stories you guys shared. Thank you. And I think I'd like to visit with, get that Mark's information. And, I know Josh, my son Josh, he graduated from Davies last year. He's still attending Davies this year, but his goal and his dream is to go to NDSU. So the fact that the A-Step is at NDSU now is just super cool. We're super excited for that. So whatever it takes to make it happen, we want him to go to school there, and he's excited about it. So
Him and Jake are good buddies. So
yep.
So Josh has mentored Jake in the cell phone world. Jake just got a cell phone at Christmas, so that was a big move for us. I was like, okay, we're gonna get the phone. So Josh can pave the way for Jake.
Yeah, when we were just out for dinner, and he was him and Jake were snapping or whatever they were doing.
I know. It's all good. You underestimate.
It sounds like a great program. Like I said, we're super excited about it, and I got to get together with this Mark and just kind of get some more details and try and get it worked out.
And maybe, Ann, you could just tell Mike maybe, but I forget Mark. He was at Ann Carlson. I mean, like just some of his credentials. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful man. Very knowledgeable.
Yep. So we are really fortunate to have him at NDSU
For sure.
because he's been in the world and helping students with disabilities for, I think, his whole career as well.
Yeah.
And he is accomplished. He's a man that's accomplished with assistive technology, and it's just amazing his knowledge in that area. And he has students at NDSU now using technology, you know, anyone who needs accommodations using technology. And he's just passionate about students and passionate about kids' success. And he amazes me because we're helping them build this program, and we call him and say, okay, well, we'll set up this time to help you. And he's like, I've already done it. So he's awesome. I think that you will really enjoy visiting with him. And Deneen, will you send Mike the email or his email then?
Yep,
Yeah.
I sure will. I think what I'll do is, Jolene, did you have on one of the first slides where the campuses are? Is there just the 3 or are there more?
It's the 3 right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're listed on one of the early slides.
Okay. So
And we
what
are-
I'll do is I'll just list Mark's email right in the information that I send out to everybody. I'm
Awesome.
gonna send out the slides, the recording, because for whatever reason, I don't know why that link did not work, because it worked for some and not for others. And then we'll send that recording out, and then, like I said, we'll send out all the PowerPoints and any other things that you sent to me to send out to everybody. So we'll do that. And then we'll also we'll post the recording on our fvnd.org website. So if you have other friends or families that would be interested in learning more about the A-STEP program, they can go back and watch all the information and get the handouts and such there too.
So can Minnesota residents also attend, like NDSU or?
Yes.
Because
It's not like the A-STEP program has people from all over the country attending. So,
okay.
yep. So it's not limited to North Dakota students. And Deneen, I will send you the person who people can contact for the Dakota College of Botano program too, in case any parents know someone, you know, who might feel more comfortable with a small university.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah. And then you can include that on us.
Yeah.
I did want to say thank you, everybody. I've been listening. My daughter's only 8.5, so I'm early. But again, like you guys kind of said, you can't really be too early. You know, I'm just super excited for the fact that you guys do have, I'm from Minot. I'm very familiar with Minot State and with the program. You know, I think it's an amazing program. We live in Fargo now. So I'm super, super excited that the options will be there, hopefully, when we need them at NDSU. So thank you for getting all that information to us. And I just loved hearing you know, all the personal stories, because even though my kiddo is 8.5, I'm already thinking to the future, and I want her to be as independent as possible, and I want her to have a job someday. and just have those independent living skills. But it's terrifying at this point. So it does make me feel so much better to hear these stories of, your kids that are going through all of these things. So I just wanted to say thank you, and that I just really enjoyed Family Voices putting this together, and all of you guys from Minot State in the program. That's just wonderful information. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You'll have to keep us updated then.
Yes.
That's
For sure.
amazing. I got to tell you, we're at age 18 and we're on the same first call about this. So you're doing well, Shonda. Wow.
Mm.
You're
do have two,
Thank you.
do have two quick questions, Janice. I shouldn't say understand. I'm hearing and listening about the program and the opportunities and the support. One of the challenges we have is Mercedes loves being active. So she gets up at 6:28 every morning, not 9 or 30, 6:28. Incredibly routine and amazingly competent and all that. We never have to worry. Goes to school, comes home, takes a nap, goes to work, comes home, and at 9:30 at night, she says, I'm bored. What do I do? She really wants to be in and around people and activities, 12/7. I won't say 24/7 because she sleeps a lot, but when she's awake, she's all about that. So what do the extracurricular activities look like while they're in the program?
I think she would do really well with this. Charlie, this is an area where Charlie really struggles. It doesn't occur to him to see these numerous posters on campus and get himself to these activities. We all really have to work at making sure he knows about them and almost force the issue for him to go to them. Once he's there, he's taken selfies, he's sending them to us, and he does enjoy it. But he struggles to get himself there. But I think she would really like the social opportunities on campus. There's always a ball game, a volleyball, there's always games as an event. The campus is active, especially on weeknights. There's bingo games, there's at least a couple of things every week. And she could always go to the wellness center. There's like spin classes, rock climbing, there's competitions that she could be involved with. And, if Charlie could have a little bit of that, he would really embrace the college life, but we have to really push him into those activities. But I think she would find plenty to do. And there are a lot of clubs. Charlie first met Liz when he got to campus, and he's like, whoa, no, too much. So but it is a skill to be able to be by yourself and kill some downtime, because there is downtime. And so that is something maybe to work on. There's absolutely nothing to do. What can you do? Because it's one thing for her to be asking you like, okay, what can I do? But, she's not going to be able to ask college kids that all the time. She can ask a few times, but after a few times, they're probably going to avoid, that question. So that is something to work on. Okay, well, you don't have anything to do right now. Here's a list of 5 things that you could pick from, maybe change that list so that it's college related, like doing your laundry or vacuuming, I don't know. But that would
going to the beaver dam.
Going to the beaver dam. Yes. Yep.
I was going to say, I
awesome.
heard your question about how does he get there?
Oh, yeah.
One thing I was going to say is our programs do provide peer support. So, if we know that these are skills that your daughter would need to be working on, and if we knew that she needed to be up in the morning and doing something, we would be able to find a peer mentor who would go with her to the spin class or whatever she wanted to do. And, there won't be peer mentors available all the time. So Janice is right. You do have to work on, helping her to be comfortable being alone with nothing to do and knowing what she can do from that. But we are very we are very blessed to be able to have peer mentors to help our students. And in fact, that's one of the biggest things that peer mentors do, is take the students, to games and to clubs and to whatever, and help our students to become integrated. And then it ends up being friendships, true friendships. So
Yeah, we appreciate that. And that's all those things are right up our alley. And we're smiling when you say, oh my gosh, you guys, I had no idea you had to coach people on downtime, because I crave it. And
Hope you're on mute.
You're on mute, Ed.
Oh, your microphone turned off.
oh, shoot. So anyway, we can relate and we appreciate it. And yeah, good advice. Last question that I have, and then we will go back on mute. So Tracy, how many students are in the program today?
We have 17 this semester. We
Okay.
started the year with 16. Yep.
Wow.
So
Our ideal number is 20.
Okay.
Just with the amount of staff and mentor support that we have, we don't feel like we can properly serve more than 20
Okay.
at this time.
The we go to, Mercedes goes to Century, and they have an incredible support program, and I mean they end up kind of being their own little gang, right? And so that's cool too.
Katie, you look like you had a question. Did you have a question?
I do have a question, but before I ask, I just want to say thanks again to Roxanne and to Janice. I didn't get my link working until quite later. All of a sudden, it just popped up after about 45 minutes, started buzzing away. So so I jumped in late, but it has been really fun listening to the stories and everyone's experiences, and I really appreciate it. And I also appreciate the commonality. I just think it's fantastic that Roxanne, you said how Liz has been learning about herself, right? And about what she needs, and just that metacognition that's so important to learning and to knowing about yourself for every student. I just thought that was awesome. And I don't remember who it was that said, oh, Janice, I think you said it's not perfect. I right now currently have 4 children in college, and yeah, it's not perfect. They're all average, regular kids, and my youngest is probably the one I'm the most worried about, and she's the one on the IP, but it's never perfect. How many nights I've been up, like with a crying child on the phone, or you make a trip because you're worried, or they need something, or they forgot something, or I love hearing that. There's just such a commonality to it, and about just really how true growth is a human experience, really no matter what age, but it's fantastic. So my question is, if there's any plans to expand the program, and what other places we can look forward to it reaching out.
So we are in contact right now with 3 additional places in North Dakota, and I'm not sure that we will, well, our grant was to support 3, and so I'm not sure how we're going to be able to help them financially, but we are working with 3 universities who are interested in developing some sort of program and working on trying to get their own funding. And so, I think you can expect a few more, and I don't really want to name those universities right now, but we're trying to get them, across the state, and one on a reservation. We're trying because it's, because that's an important component, and many of the children that live on reservations don't, even have, they don't have any services once they graduate from high school, really. And so anyway, at least 2 more off reservation and 1 more on a reservation. And we're hoping for 1 more, we are hoping for 1 in Bismarck, I will say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, does bulk rehab help? I know it's here in Bismarck. Does it help all across the state as well? Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Fantastic. Thank you.
When we meet new people and they meet Charlie and ask, about, we have 4 boys and 3 of them now are in college. And when they ask about Charlie, what does he do? A lot of people are really shocked when we say, well, he goes to school at Minot State. And the people whose reaction I like the best is people who went to Minot State, and they're very proud that their university has this program that now benefits someone they've now met. And alumni are really proud of this program being on their campus. And I love seeing that.
Liz is pretty sure that her face should be on the billboard that's coming into Bismarck from Mandan. And so she's like, they got to change that out. And she's absolutely right, because
She should totally be on the billboard.
totally be on the billboard.
She would definitely be a service.
Mhm. Yep.
I think when Roxanne, only because I know Liz so well. Anyway, she was a social butterfly before, but I can really see how she has absolutely blossomed into the young woman that she is now. I mean, she has really blossomed, I think.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful story, but I would tell you guys, like, as Janice was talking, rough moments. I didn't think we were going back up there after her sophomore year. Or was it her junior? I can't remember, but I was like, this is weird. This is rough, because we were up there during COVID too. And that was something else. Yeah, it was her junior year. That was a little rough. And then she got into her own apartment on campus, and it was like almost like a whole new person. I mean, she just like matured so much between those 2 years, and just had this amazing senior year up on campus. So yeah, there were some spots.
One little story about Liz, I'll tell you about her when she was really young, when Roxanne and I went to the same high school together. And I watched Liz while Roxanne went to an alumni banquet. And at the time, all 3 of my kids were still at home. And there was kids coming, going. But I think Liz was maybe, I don't know, Roxanne, I think she was maybe 5, 6. Anyway, every time a kid came and left, they couldn't leave the yard unless they did a cartwheel for her. She would not let them leave, and they all did it. That was it was kind of mind blowing. They all did it. They were just really cooperative. So when I say she's been a butterfly forever, she really has.
Janice, I was going to tell you too that Lee Seaworth feels the same way that Charlie probably did. Liz tried to hug him for the majority of his life. He used to like run around and hide behind his mom.
Too much Liz.
Too much. Well, we're all here to help if in any way you need us to be.
We really appreciate you guys coming and all of your questions, and thank you, Roxana and Janice. Your stories are just so awesome. They bring tears to my eyes when I listen to you. So we really appreciate you.
And
Thank you
thanks
all very much.
everybody. I'm sorry there was such a hard time to get on. That's the first time that has ever happened, and I hope it doesn't happen again. So, but I will send out all of the materials and contact information for all of you, and then the recording so that you can share it. So thank you all for hanging in there.
Janine, I take responsibility every time I grab anything that has an electronic function. I tend to be the cooler and make everything not work. So you can just blame it on me.
I'm not going to do that.
I'll try to stay away. No, I don't want to stay away.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
you very much.